Well, Kurt, thanks for taking the time to join me. Tell me about the work you do and who you do it for.
Thanks for having me, Kurt. You Kurt's on
Two
on
Kurts,
the podcast
two
today.
Kurts, one podcast.
So right now I'm with a company called Catalyte. We have an AI that we've developed, large language model internally that goes out on the web and different places and finds individuals that have patterns that are analogous with individuals that have high technology aptitudes. And once we find those people, we invite them to take aptitude tests with us. And if they perform well on the tests, we hire them, we pay them to train with us. And that could be anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months, depending on what track they're in. It could be, like IT support all the way up to a data scientist. And then once they graduate from our training program, then we place them in our client environments to work side by side with our clients, either on a team or as part of a more formal apprenticeship program with those organizations. So it's cool. It's a great time to be involved in a company that's got some legit artificial intelligence that's out in the marketplace. And then also the social impact component of what we do is fantastic.
Very cool. So it sounds like you're solving a couple of problems all in one kind of fail swoop. Can you tell me about the where this originated? Was it, boy, I have needs to fill spots, but I can't find talent? Or was it, I'm finding all these talented people, but we can't get them to cross the chasm into where did the problem start and how did it evolve over time?
So way back when our founder, Mike Rosenbaum, he's a Harvard grad, like super smart guy, was doing some work with the Clinton administration and they were trying to solve for talent gaps, right? Specifically in technology. And, the people in the administration at the time, had one opinion about, how to solve for this. And it's more aligned with the traditional tracks of getting individuals into college and training them and then putting them into
More
internship.
traditional route.
Exactly. And Mike argued that there was a different way to do it. And that is that we're kind of looking for technology aptitude in the wrong places, not necessarily the wrong places, but we can look in different places and have a much more profound impact on society in general and on people's lives. And at the same time, fill the technology roles that we have, right? So we've got this big talent gap, but we've got all these people, they're all around us. They're baristas at Starbucks. They're working at Home Depot. They're working at the Chase Bank as a teller. They may be a PhD in English, but they didn't know that they had technology aptitude for whatever reason. Some things happened in their life. They didn't go down that path. And he really believed that just the college track, the university track was just one way to solve this issue. And the Clinton administration disagreed with that position. And so Mike said, okay. And he moved to Baltimore and founded Catalyte. So that was 20 years ago. So that was way before AI and large language models and all of that stuff. And so what the business was really founded on was basically running algorithms that determined, how people may have an aptitude in technology. And over time, over the period of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we've developed a massive amount of data around individuals that actually do have technology aptitude, what they did prior to us identifying them with technology aptitude.
Hmm.
And now what we're really doing, which is super interesting, is we're looking out further, once we place them into technology positions, who did well? Why did they do well? And then what attributes did they have way before we even identified them as having technology aptitude? So we can kind of refine this now that the technology is really providing us with these opportunities to zero in on an even greater preciseness, I guess, in terms of finding this talent. So right now it actually is, it's really effective. So if we run the AI on the web, we basically just send it out there. It's got about 500 data points that it looks for to develop what these patterns are. we know with about 70% certainty, once the AI comes back, that they're going to be a pretty good fit for a
Mm,
technology role, regardless of the background, what age they are, whether they're, Asian, Hispanic, white, black, doesn't matter. They're male, female. It with 70% accuracy, they're going to be pretty good. And then once we have them take the aptitude test, we know with 90% certainty that they're going to be a good fit for a
mm,
technology role. And what I mean by that is the individuals that go through our training, we place them with our client organizations with the idea that they will convert to a full-time employee at that organization within a specific period of time. So when I say 90% certainty, 90% of the people that we place in technology roles convert to full-time employment with our clients. So, I mean, that is really profound when you think about the implications for an individual that's making on average $28,000 a year. And then within 36 months of coming into a program with Catalyte, they're making north of $100,000 a year. That literally changes the trajectory of lives.
yeah.
So it's fulfilling a need in the marketplace. Like way back 20 years ago, Mike Rosenbaum was right. That we've got these technologists all around us right now. We just need to look for them a little bit differently and kind of foster and cultivate that aptitude different than just colleges and universities. And so we've been able to accomplish that. And that's kind of closed the talent gap in some areas, but it's also had this social impact, which is really cool to be part of.
Mm. That's incredible. I have a number of questions. So one is specifically because you've had all these years of accumulating, I'm guessing, a lot of data in order to train this thing. Can you talk me through a little bit of that process of how the training happened for the AI models?
I might need to have another podcast with you and invite our CTO in.
Well, just
I know
anything high level, because I always find it fascinating when people are taking, like you said, like 20 years of data and transforming that into a more scalable platform like you've just described. It sounds incredible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for those who know anything about I mean, it starts with data, right? Like back in the day, I come from, a website design company in 2020, 2000. It's like you rebuilt your company 3 or 4 times over the course
Mhm.
of a 15-year period because social came out, because content management came out, because databases, because e-commerce, like, there's always these new things coming out. Like, now is like when apps came out back then, we used to have all these customers come to us and say, "We need an app." You're like, "Why do you need an app?" Well, we have customers coming to Catalyte now talking about AI just because, we're an AI company at heart. And so we have similar conversations with them about AI. What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish by using data, machine learning, AI? And usually what we hear from them is, they're aspirational. They know that they need to do something with AI to stay competitive in the marketplace, but then when you look under the hood, their data is almost always not ready to do that. And so it typically turns into, on the services side of our business, the conversation turns into quickly from what can we do with AI to let's get our data in order so that we can leverage AI and then machine learning and whatever else comes next for us. So data comes first. And when you've got a lot of data, I think that's really one of the main reasons why we're seeing the proliferation of AI right now is because we've got access to so much data, right? Like the sample size of data is just massive and it continues to compound every single year. So that's really, to your point, Kurt, we've got 20 years of data that we're looking at over, thousands of candidates that had technology aptitude. We're looking at what they did prior to coming into our program. And now we're looking at what happened after they came into our program. So the more data points we get, the more finely tuned we can have the program that we have. So it's really just about pattern recognition at the end of the day, if you ask me. And I think that, the inherent kind of qualities of AI machine learning is that the system is looking for opportunities to make itself better. So That's almost the extent of what I know.
That's super helpful. Yeah, because I find it interesting because I'd love to also hear about how you do the actual outreach because it reminds me of, and again, I apologize to anybody in the audience who's probably under 40 years old, but one of the reasons why Minneapolis has become such a big design community is because one of the original graphic design schools was built here. And if people remember it, they used to put out these ads that were aptitude tests where can you draw this turtle
Uh-huh.
or things like that way back in the day. And if people sent it in and could draw this turtle, then the college would pitch them on coming and becoming a designer and things. So I always found it funny because that's one reason why Minneapolis grew into a large design community, that along with the CPGs here. So talk to me a little bit about that initial outreach. How did that transform over time and how has digital really affected how you're reaching out to these initial people? Because I can imagine, I get contacted and they're like, hey, you could change your career. Like it could come across very spammy, very, very easily. I'm sure there's some formulas you've come up with over the years that make it a much more showing what benefits there are to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in full disclosure, my position is president of Catalyte, what we call Talent on Demand, which is our services line of business.
Yeah.
Kate Bergen she runs our talent stream line of business. And that has the AI component and all of the training
Hmm.
components for our apprentices in there. So she knows all of the ins and outs in terms of the outreach and, how we get people engaged in the program and bought in. And, you know, they see clearly that this isn't some type of fishing exhibition. But I think what I do know is that the process is a little bit more manual than we'd like it to be at this point. And I think that's one of the reasons why is because if you just send a cold email out to somebody from nowhere and they don't know who we are, obviously they're going to be skeptical about, the
Yeah.
potential of this being an opportunity for them. Like I said, these people they're working at Starbucks or at Home Depot or wherever. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden we're reaching out from out of nowhere and they're going to be a developer that's going to make $100,000 a year. It's a little bit hard to believe and we're going to pay them to do it. So it is kind of a manual process where we reach out to candidates, talk to them about our company. And one of the good things is that we've got a ton of PR and data and press about Catalyte that's out there. We were on 60 Minutes. So the more people kind of dig into the company, I think the more comfortable they get with the prospect
Yeah.
of joining. And the other thing is that it's not so much a leap of faith. There are a lot of companies out there that do this type of thing, right? There are companies that are attract, train, deploy companies. And, the difference between a Catalyte and a company like that is we can get a much high caliber candidate to come into our ecosystem because we're paying them.
Hmm.
So they're going to make the same amount of money once they come on board and they're training for whatever period of time their track requires them to train. So they're really not missing out on anything for the most part. I mean, there are some people that probably have to make some sacrifices to join the organization and take the training, but they are getting paid as they're going through the training.
Makes sense. Yeah, so I can imagine, I mean, it's kind of dual purpose, right? You've got services and you've got a product, basically, right? Do they sort of support each other? Do they kind of feed off of each other? Is that what the benefit is of having not just a focus only on service and or only on product?
Exactly. So it's pretty symbiotic when you think about it. You've got the AI piece of the business that attracts, that identifies the individuals that have the aptitude. Then we've got the training portion of the business where, obviously we're training the people to do a specific skill set. And then once they're done, it's either good luck, here's your certificate,
Right.
you're out in the world kind of on your own, or you have some type of vehicle for them, some mechanism for them to kind of go out and start getting some real world experience. And that's another major differentiator that Catalyte offers is that we've got this services piece of our business where we're helping clients in the real world solve real technology problems. and they're all over the place, right? They're, Fortune 1000 businesses, medium-sized companies, nonprofit organizations, and they're solving all kinds of different problems from just, like I said, IT tech support all the way up to really complicated digital transformation initiatives that are global.
Yeah, and again, with you kind of, infinite, I mean, you've got kind of this infinite talent pool. It might really, I'm sure it can help the business, the services side scale as well, right?
Hopefully. Yeah, that's the idea. So, I mean, in some respects, the business runs, if you could even think of it like the services side of the business is the biggest customer of the attract and train
Sure.
side of the business. So we're taking the vast majority of the apprentices that side of the business is producing, and then we're putting them to work on the services side of the business with the expectation that they're going to convert, right? So, they're only going to be with us for a relatively short period of time
Yeah.
while they're kind of like finishing out their apprenticeship period. It's really good for clients too. So, I mean, for the apprentice, they get the opportunity to get into real world situations, hands on keyboards. They get to work side by side with mid level and senior level technology
Right.
talent. But for the client, they get to an opportunity to kind of try before they buy. So they're not paying a six-figure salary to these technologists. It's a relatively low entry point for them. So the apprentices get the real world experience,
Hmm.
and the businesses get an opportunity to kind of try before they buy. And like I said, with a really high degree of conversion, the clients really like the product, the people, and they bring them on full time at a very high rate. So it's good for everybody. I mean, the period is usually between 12 to 18 months that our apprentices are kind of in that apprentice phase
Hmm.
with clients, and then they convert over to full time usually.
Got it. Are your clients able just to hire people outright from this service?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we encourage.
Okay.
I mean, if it's before the period, I mean, that's how we make money, right? Like we can't
Yeah.
pay for their training the entire time they come on board and then our clients just hire them away within 3 months of them graduating from the program. We have to kind of make that our investment a little
Got to
bit
be a
there.
grace period there.
Yes, exactly. And so like I said, it works out really well for the apprentices and it works out really well for our clients. And it's a good business model for us as well.
Hmm. And what are the typical services that you see, more recent maybe than years ago? What are clients looking for more so, and what are you training more so on these days?
Well, there's the traditional kind of full stack developers, front end, back end, really hot areas, Python, obviously, because of AI, because of
Yeah.
the big focal points for us on the services side of the business. And I think that also reflects itself over on the attract and train side of the business is three different areas: data, because of what we talked about earlier. People want to do AI, they want to have machine learning, but they don't have their data in order.
Hmm.
Uh, I was listening to this interview with Andy Jassy, who's the CEO of Amazon, a couple weeks ago, and he had mentioned that 90% of their clients have some type of at least hybrid on-prem or 100% on-prem
Yeah.
technology solution.
Sure.
So there's a whole lot of runway. I mean, I think we, as technologists, we tend to think that, oh yeah, cloud migrations was so 5, 10 years ago, but it's really not. There are a ton of companies, both large and small, that have a lot of work to do when it comes to data migration and getting their data into a place that's
Hmm.
full for them. So cloud, data, and cyber are the three areas where we're hyper focused right now. And we feel like a couple things there. One, there's a really long runway there. Back to, what we were talking about before in the 2000s, where people were, companies were trying to figure out, whether they needed a website or not.
Yeah.
You knew that it was just going to be something that was going to be around for 10 years, 15 years, however long. I think we're at that point right now with the new technology that we're seeing with around data, around cloud, around cyber, where it's not going away anytime soon. So, we've got lots of work to do there with lots of really big companies, medium-sized companies, small companies. So that's where we're focused. but also there's the largest talent gap around these technologies. So businesses can't hire enough cyber people. They can't find data engineers, you know, people that really skilled with cloud technologies are hard to come by. So for us, it's kind of pairing those two things together, right? It's the need in the marketplace. It's where those talent gaps exist and our ability to identify people that have aptitude in those areas, train them, and then get them out into our client
Hmm.
environments.
That's pretty wild. And so where do you see the future for this? I mean, if you were to get out your crystal ball, Kurt, and tell us, where where's the opportunities, where's growth that you see in these areas, specifically in that service-based side of things? Is it expanding your service offerings? Is it niching it tighter down? It seems that there's a lot of competing avenues of thought out there in the world about should we broaden our services? Should we offer more things? Or should we really narrow it down to where we work with, people who only cut Kentucky bluegrass sort of like they don't just cut lawns, but they only cut lawns that are Kentucky bluegrass lawns or something. What are your thoughts when I say that?
I hope this doesn't ruffle any feathers, but I kind of view the IT services industry as kind of commoditized
Hmm.
now, right? It's like there are 1,000 other companies, maybe more in the United States that are very good IT service providers, right? I mean, they've got really good past performance. They worked with great companies. They've got really good people. They got work with the best technologies. Their prices are competitive. So when you sit in a pitch with a company and the the people on the other side of the table say, "What makes you different than every other company that you're competing with?" Are you going to say those things? Are you going to say, "Oh, we have the most relevant past performance. We have the best people. We have the most competitive prices." Well, everybody else is going to say those
Everybody
things
else
too.
says that too. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think for us, really, we have a true differentiator in the fact that we've got our AI, we're sourcing technology candidates that are trained on the most recent technologies and techniques to solve technology problems. And what that ultimately does for us is it's got that social impact component to it. It's got the conversion component to it, right? So you're kind of like pipelining talent in a way, but we're lowering the cost of the overall technology delivery by weaving apprentices into the solutions that we're providing. So if you think about it in terms of an agile team, for instance, you got an agile team of 10 people or something like that, and you weave 3 apprentices or 4 apprentices into an agile team of 10, you're significantly reducing the overall cost of delivering that technology to the client by having the apprentices in there. And at the end of the initiative, those apprentices are more than likely going to stay with the client and convert to full-time employees. So you've got the lower cost of delivering the technology up front, and then you have the connective tissue, that continuity of the technology team that actually built the technology staying with the organization. So it's a true differentiator. And it's for us, it's more about volume for us at this
Hmm.
point of like, how can we get out in front of more companies and have this conversation with them to kind of preach the gospel, you know?
That's great. Okay, Kurt. Well, if I want to, I mean, first of all, thank you for so much for spending some time. I think it's such a really interesting and innovative an approach, and it seems also very fulfilling and satisfying to be able to make a dent in these people's lives while still doing great work in the services side.
It's it's amazing. It really is. At this point in my career, being in, you know, the IT services, technology enablement, consulting world for, over 20, 25 years, I really wanted to do something that had some meaning to it. Like I said, there's 1,000 other IT services companies that I could have gone and worked for and done very similar stuff, but the social impact component to this and, not just working with like offshore technology delivery centers, just really, it was a great fit for me. So super happy to be part of Catalyte and really appreciate the opportunity to come and chat with you today, Kurt.
Yeah, great. Well, if I want to get in touch with you and learn more about Catalyte and the different types of things you do, where's the best places to go and find info?
Catalyte.io, Catalyte.io. And my email is just cschwab@catalyte.io.
Great. Well, thanks again, Kurt. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate it.